perfection, and the stage is called Sarup, or the factual identity of the living being. Liberation means renovation of this stage of Sarup. In that perfect stage of Sarupa, the living being is established in five phases of loving service, one of which is the stage of Madhurya Ras, or the humor of conjugal love. The Lord is always perfect in himself, and thus he has no hankering for himself. He, however, becomes a master, a friend, a son, or a husband to fulfill the intense love of the devotee concerned. Herein, two classes of devotees of the Lord are mentioned in the stage of conjugal love. One is Swika,
Swakiya,
and the other
Swakiya,
is Swargya, and the other is Prekya. Both
Parakiya.
of them are in conjugal love with the personality of the Godhead Krishna. The queens of Dwarka were Trika, or duly married wives, but the damsels of Braj were young friends of the Lord while he was unmarried. The Lord stayed at Vrindavan till the age of 16, and his friendly relations with the neighboring girls were in the terms of Prakya. Those These girls, as well as the queens, underwent severe penances by taking vows, bathing, and offering sacrifices in the fire as prescribed in the scriptures. The rites, as they are not an end in themselves, nor are fruitive action. Culture of Culture of knowledge or perfection in mystic powers ends in themselves. They are all means to attain to the highest stage of Sarupa, to render constitutional transcendental service to the Lord. Each and every living being, has his individual position in one of the above mentioned five different kinds of reciprocating means with the Lord, and in one's pure spiritual form of Sarupa, the relation becomes manifest without mundane affinity. The kissing of the Lord, either by his wives or his young girlfriends who aspire to have the Lord as their fiancé, is not of any mundane, perverted quality. Had such things been mundane, a liberated soul like Sukadev would not have taken the trouble to relish them, nor would Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu have been inclined to participate in those subjects after renouncing worldly life. This stage is earned after many lives of penance.
Thank you, Prabhu. So let's look at one of the most important point that comes out of this one. It is meaning many people they look at the Ras Lila of Krishna in a very perverted manner. The way a normal human being will engage with another, the opposite gender, they think that Krishna also has engaged with his gopis in the same manner. Now, one aspect is, people who are of different religion, they anyway have some dislike and hatred towards Krishna. For them to speak ill about Krishna and his pastimes is understandable because it is stemming out of that hatred. But you would observe that Hindus themselves also speak very lowly about this activity. And we wouldn't be actually too much surprised because the way they have been brought up in the society, they only think as human being, meaning a woman and a man, only from the physical relationship perspective. And that is how probably things are even happening in the society today. But when it comes to the Lord, because their eyes do not have the spiritual vision, they are unable to think from the perspective of meaning transcendental activities performed by the Lord. So, the point is, anything that the Lord does, because he is not under the influence of the modes of material nature, he never commits a material activity. His attraction to somebody's body can actually does makes absolute no sense because he himself has transcended the material nature. He is above the material nature, and the body is made up of material nature. So for him to be attracted towards this material nature or a body created by that doesn't make sense at all. From another perspective, if you see, all of these gopis and all of these 16,108 wives were the forms of Lakshmi. So Lakshmi and her forms being the wives of Krishna or Vishnu. Okay, finally he was actually having these pastimes with his own wife. So again, then there is no sense of considering this as immoral. And okay, let's talk about these 2 points. There is this Swakiya Bhav and then there is Parakiya Bhav. Swakiya meaning our own self and in the kind of a legitimate manner. Parakiya meaning it's a kind of an illegitimate manner. Now, Krishna being outside the modes of material nature, these relationships of Swakiya and Parakiya are not applicable to him directly. So what happens is, let's understand Swakiya and Parakiya first. So Swakiya meaning husband and wife, let's say for example. So the wife, when the husband is away from home, the wife is thinking about the husband. In that bhav is called as Swakiya. But let's assume the wife has some affair with another person, and that wife is thinking about that other person while working at home. That bhav is called as Parakiya bhav. Okay, now it may be a bit difficult for you to understand it at this stage, and you may not agree to this concept also, but it is okay for the moment. But just understand what the philosophy is talking about. So when the wife has an affair with some other person, what does she do? She wants to spend as much time with the other person. For that, she finishes off her household activities as efficiently and as fast as possible so that she can generate more and more time for the other person. And she will do it so swiftly that the husband and the children will not have even an iota of doubt about what her intentions are. So it is said that when you love Krishna, you should love in that particular manner, that you finish off your daily chores in such a manner that your focus is fully on Krishna, but you are doing all these activities in that level of efficiency, and you want to finish it off as fast as possible so that you can generate more and more time for Krishna. And that bhav is actually far better than the Swakiya bhav. Because in the Swakiya bhav, there is a tendency that if the husband is with the wife may not think about him. But in the Parakiya bhav, the wife thinks about that other person while with the family and while with that person also. So that's why Parakiya bhav is considered to be more better than the Swakiya bhav in terms of thinking about Krishna. So the queens of Dwarka were in the Swakiya bhav, whereas the gopis were in the Parakiya bhav. And that's why the love of gopis, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has mentioned, is of higher grade, is of higher better quality love. Now this people may have a tendency to look at Krishna's activities in an inappropriate manner, and this is precisely the reason why these chapters, I think 29th chapter till 33rd chapter of 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, these 5 chapters, they contain the Ras Lila description of that. So it is recommended that common people who have not reached the stage of bhakti, they are disallowed from reading these chapters. And if at all one is reading it and one wants to understand, it should be done under the guidance of the Guru, so that we do not get misled and we do not think inappropriately about the Lord's pastimes. So just to ensure that we do not consider the Lord as a common person, and misunderstand his pastimes as an ordinary person and view it negatively, incorrectly, that small boundary is actually kept so that people do not commit mistakes. So once we reach to a certain stage where we have developed a good understanding about the Lord, then one can go and read those chapters. Now, Prabhupada brings a very important point here. He's saying that let's assume for a moment uh, Krishna and his pastimes with the gopi were inappropriate, were of mundane nature, just material nature, just physically being attracted to each other's body. Let's assume for a moment. But even if Krishna is of that nature, still Shukadev Goswami, who is reciting Bhagavatam to us, he is definitely not that level of person, right? And as people like Sutta Goswami and Shaunak Rishi have described, we understand the level of Shukadev Goswami. So what Prabhupada is saying is, if Krishna's pastimes were ordinary, why would people like Shukadev Goswami or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu waste their time speaking about these pastimes? Okay, he would not have taken. Yeah, Shukadev Goswami has even described the Ras Leela for 5 chapters. He should not have done that. And constantly Shukadev Goswami, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shankar, Mahadev, Brahma, Narad Muni, Kapil Muni, and so many people, they come, they talk, and they glorify Krishna in various chapters throughout Bhagavatam. Why would they want to glorify a mundane person? Why would they want to glorify a womanizer? Some common sense people can apply, and they will get this answer. Yeah, you may not respect Krishna, no problem, but at least will you respect Mahadev? Yes, if you respect Mahadev, will you not respect a person who Mahadev respects, or who Mahadev glorifies and worships? Isn't it obvious? There is this term called as edification in English. So this is generally used in marketing and sales. So let's say I am a customer and there is one person who wants to sell something to me. Okay, but I do not know anything about that person. So what is done is a common friend is brought in between, who is known to that other person and myself. And when that sales need to happen, this common person will glorify that item and that person and will try to connect me to that person. So once, because I have faith in this person, I will automatically develop faith in the other third person also. Why? Because I believe this person, the second person. Now, when the third person, whatever he says, I will automatically believe and perform that sales activity. Similarly, when people like Mahadev, Brahma, Narad Muni, they glorify and worship Krishna, we automatically can believe Krishna. Right? Even if we do not understand Krishna by ourselves, even if we don't believe Krishna directly also. So that is why this third person concept also sometimes help us to understand Krishna. This Swarupa related point was described quite a few times before. I am not going into that again in discussing that. But do you all know the 12 types of relationships that are there? Anybody?
Yes, Prabhu.
Pro, you want to explain that?
Yeah. There are 5 major relationships. That is, one is neutral. That is when you are engaged with the Lord in some way, like even a bansuri or a har or a pajib, something like that. Then
No,
there is a
active
uh,
service is not performed there.
uh, then there is second relation is servant, that is dasya, whose Hanuman is the main example. Then the third relationship is the friendship, that is sakhya, that where the Arjun is being quoted. Then the fourth relationship is the parenthood, where Nand Baba, Yashoda, all these are there. Then the fifth relation is the Madhurya, that is Radhaji and all that.
Correct. Exactly.
Apart from that, there are 7 other relations which are normally not used, but for the I think for Krishna only these five are more important.
So there are these 12 relationships, 5 are primary, 7 are secondary. The secondary relationships are there, meaning Bhishma also had developed one of the secondary relationships, which is of the fighting spirit. But this is also Krishna accepts any and every. But from a bhakti perspective, these 5 are considered to be better than the other 7. It's not that a person cannot become bhakta in the 7 relationships, but recommended for people like us are the 5. Okay, moving on to verse number 29. या वीर्यशूल्केन हृता स्वयंवरे प्रमथ्य चैद्य प्रमुखान् हि शुष्मिणः प्रद्युम्न सांबाम्ब सुतादयो परा याश्चाहृता भौमवधे सहस्रशः. Who's reading?
Yeah, Prabhuji. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. The children of these ladies are Pradyumna, Samba, Amba, etc. Ladies like Rukmini, Satyabhama, and Jambavati were forcibly taken away by him from their Swayamvara ceremonies after he defeated many powerful kings headed by Sishupala. And other ladies were also forcibly taken away by him after he killed Bhaumasura and thousands of his assistants. All of these ladies are glorious. Purport. Exceptionally qualified daughters of powerful kings were allowed to make choice of their own bridegrooms in open competition, and such ceremonies were called Swayamvara, or selection of the bridegroom. Because the Swayamvara was an open competition between the rival and valiant princess, such princes were invited by the father of the princess. And usually there were regular fights between the invited princely order in a sporting spirit. But it is so happened that sometimes the belligerent princes were killed in such a marriage fighting, and the victorious prince was offered the trophy princess for whom so many princes died. Rukmini, the principal queen of Lord Krishna, was the daughter of King Vidarbha, who wished that his qualified and beautiful daughter be given away to Lord Krishna. But her eldest brother wanted her to be given away to King Sisupala, who happened to be cousin of Krishna. So there was open competition, and as usual, Lord Krishna emerged successful after harassing Sisupala and other princes by his unrivaled prowess. Rukmini had 10 sons like Pradyumna. There were other queens also taken away by Lord Krishna in a similar way. Full description of this beautiful booty of Lord Krishna will be given in the 10th canto. There were 16,100 beautiful girls who were daughters of many kings and were forcibly stolen by Bhaumasura, who kept them captive for his carnal desire. These girls prayed piteously to Lord Krishna for their deliverance, and the merciful Lord, called by their fervent prayer, released them all by fighting and killing Bhaumasura. All these captive princes were then accepted by the Lord as his wives. Although, in the estimation of society, they were all fallen girls. The all powerful Lord Krishna accepted the humble prayers of these girls and married with the adoration of queens. So, altogether, Lord Krishna had 16,108 queens at Dwaraka, and in each of them he begot 10 children. All these children grew up, and each had as many children as the father. The aggregate of the family numbered in the millions.
Jai. So this whole description is there in the 10th canto, and I would recommend you all to read the Krishna book which Prabhupada has written. Has anybody already read that book? Nobody?
Prabhu, that is virtually a 10th canto, na?
Yes, it is. It is.
But and again we find at various places that one should read it only after these 9 cantos are finished. So that's why, though I have with me, but I don't read it unless I go through all this.
Yeah, you are right, Prabhu. But what happens is there are quite a few things in the Krishna book which one should read about even at this stage also. like the appearance of Krishna. Why did he appear in that manner? Meaning, what kind of orders were given to Durga Mata at that time before his appearance? Then the various demons he killed. Even this particular incident about taking away or killing the Bhaumasur. So Bhaumasur is the other name of Bhaumasur. Anybody knows? Nobody.
No, no, brother.
So other name of Bhaumasur is Narkasur. Does it sound similar? You know where Narkasur comes into picture? Anybody?
Was it during Ram Rajya time?
No.
No, basically at the time of Diwali festival, we'll read
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Bama.
So Bhaumasur is Bhumi. Okay, Bhumi Mata's son is Bhaumasur. Because he was a Asuri Pravrit, that's why Bhaumasur. So Bhauma means of Bhumi. Okay. So, and Satyabhama is Prithvi Mata herself. So while killing this person Narkasur, okay, Satyabhama was purposely taken. Krishna took her along with him to fight this guy Narkasur, and then with her permission, Krishna killed him. Okay, so this Narkasur had kidnapped around 16,100 girls, and he wanted to marry all of them. You can imagine the desire, imagine that level of desire that he wants to enjoy 16,100 girls. Amazing height of desire it is. And he asked Narad Muni one day that I want to marry, please suggest a suitable time. Now Krishna had gone somewhere and he was going to come back after certain 2 or 3 or 4 days, something like that. So Narad Muni, misguided him to say that, on so and so date, it seems to be an auspicious time. And by so and so date, you should get married, something like that. And that was 8 or 9 days ahead of the current day. So Krishna was supposed to come in 3 or 4 days, something like that. And that's why Krishna should get some time. That's why Narad Muni said in this manner. And then Krishna came and he challenged Narkasur, and then he fought with him and he killed him, so that he will not be able to marry those 16,100 girls. Now, when Narkasur was killed, all of these girls said that it is nice that we are becoming freed, but when we go back to the society will not accept us, because the society had a thought process at that time that once a girl enters somebody's house, she becomes that person's property, when if she is not suitable for marriage. Why? Because if not physically, but at least mentally, she has either accepted or somebody else has desired her, sort of. So then she said, they all said that who will marry us then? So then he said, okay, no problem. You can, consider me as your husband. And then he took all of these 16,100 queens to Dwarka. And imagine when we say the Lord is not just because he descends down from some spiritual planet. The Lord has the capacity to do some so miraculous things that they are beyond our imagination also. So the Lord constructed 16,108 palaces. Imagine the level of opulence that he had. And there is this one Leela which is mentioned in 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. One day Narad Muni wanted to see the Lord. What is he doing in Dwarka? Let us go and see him. So he goes into the palace of Krishna. In one palace, he sees Krishna is playing with his children. In one palace, at the same time, he sees Krishna is talking to his wife. In one palace, he is, tending to cows. In one palace, he sees Krishna doing something else. He gets perplexed. Then he realizes Krishna was present at the very same time in all the 16,108 palaces by himself. Only the Supreme Lord can do this. Yeah. So people who consider Krishna as an ordinary person, you can understand their level of foolishness. So Krishna gave equal love to all of them. He got 10 boys and one girl in every of the wives, and each of these 10 children had 10 more children, and that's why their family went into millions. That is what Krishna is saying. And the names of these 8 wives, so 16,100 were captured from Narkasur, and the other 8, the Krishna either defeated some kings and he got the hand, meaning basically he married someone, or meaning he was given, the daughter was given by the father. Like for example, Rukmini, Shishupal and Rukmi, that was Rukmini's brother, elder brother, they were defeated and Krishna, took Rukmini. So there was a kind of a fight that was going to happen, and Balram was also not happy. So what Krishna did was, knowing that this will happen, he told Rukmini to drive the chariot. So the people realized that actually it was not Rukmini who was kidnapped, it was not Krishna who was kidnapping Rukmini, it was Rukmini who had kidnapped Krishna. So they all kept quiet and they couldn't do anything. So he is intelligent, he's smart as well. Then Jambuvan, right? Jambuvan, that bear who fought along with Ram in Ramayana. So Jambuvan had one small desire. He said that he told Lord Ram after Ravan was defeated that I had a big desire to have a big fight with somebody, but there was nobody who could match my strength. So my desire for fighting is still unfulfilled. What can I do about it? So Krishna, Ram told him, don't worry, in my next avatar, you will have this your desire fulfilled. And the Samantak Mani incident that happens, I'll not go too much detail into it. So when Krishna, meaning people laid allegations to Krishna that you are the one who stole this Samantak Mani, Krishna set out in the forest. Obviously, he knew it was with whom and all that. So there was a lion who had killed one of the kings who had this Samantak Mani, and this lion had taken the Samantak Mani, and Jambuvan defeated that lion and he took the Samantak Mani to himself, and then he gave it to his children to play with it. So when Krishna saw that the Samantak Mani, that lion, his bones are scattered everywhere, he could understand that he has been already killed. Then he set out in the direction and he came to the cave where Jambuvan was staying. And then he calls out Jambuvan and they have a big fight for almost 40 days. And after that 40 days were over, when Jambuvan was very tired, it was very obvious that his desire to have that big long fight with somebody was fulfilled. After that, Krishna displays his form to him. Then Jambuvan realizes who he was fighting with. Then he asks for forgiveness, thanks the Lord, and he gives his daughter Jambavati to Krishna as a wife. One day he fought. He went into one king's kingdom, and that I think I forgot the name of the queen, but that king said that if you want Nagajiti, the name of the queen. So the king told that if you want to marry my daughter, you will have to fight with 7 bulls at the very same time, and all of these bulls were very, very strong. Each of these bulls were very strong. So Krishna fought with all of the 7 bulls at the very same time and defeated all of them and finally took the hand of Nagajiti. That way he, married 8 wives who were considered to be the principal wives, of which Rukmini was the leader. And among the 16,100, there was one more wife who was the principal of these 16,100 wives. So that way there were 9 principal wives. And then this whole description is there in the 10th canto, beautifully written, narrated by Prabhupada. So please do take out some time and read Krishna book. It will give you a complete understanding of all events that happened prior to the advent of Krishna until Krishna departed. Hare Krishna. Let's move on. Any question? No?
No, Prabhuji.
Okay, let's read text 30. Etah param stritvam pastapeshalam निरस्तशौचं बत साधु कुर्वते यासां गृहात् पुष्करलोचनः पतिर् न जात्व अपै न जात्वपैत्या हृतिभिर्हृदि स्पृशन्. Who's reading? Hare Krishna.
I can do it. Go ahead, go ahead.
Sushil Prabhu, you want to read?
I'll read. All these women auspiciously glorified their lives despite their being without individuality and without purity. Their husband, the lotus-eyed personality of the Godhead, never left them alone at home. He always pleased their hearts by making valuable presentations. The devotee of the Lord are purified souls. As soon as the devotee surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord sincerely, the Lord accepts them, and thus the devotees at once become free from all material contamination. Such devotees are above the three modes of material nature. There is no bodily disqualification of a devotee. Sorry. Just as there is no qualitative difference between the Ganges water and the filthy drain water when they are amalgamated. Women, merchants, and laborers are not very intelligent, and thus it is difficult for them to understand the science of God or to be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. There are more materialistic and less than them are the Kirats, Huns, Andhras, Pulindas, Pulkadas, Abiras, Kankas, Yavanas, and Khas, etc. But all of them can be delivered if they are properly engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. By engagement in the service of the Lord, the designative disqualifications are removed, and as pure souls, they become eligible to enter into the kingdom of the Lord. The fallen girls, under the clutches of Bhamasur, sincerely prayed to Lord Shri Krishna for their deliverance, and their sincerity of purpose made them at once pure by heart of devotion, by virtue of devotion. Lord therefore accepted them as his wives, and thus their lives became glorified. Such auspicious glorification was still more glorified when the Lord played with them as the most devoted husband. The Lord used to live with his once 16,108 wives constantly. He expanded himself into 16,108 plenary portions, and each and every one of them was the Lord himself without deviation from the original personality. The Shruti mantra affirms that the Lord can expand himself into many. As husband of so many wives, he pleased them with all such presentations, even at a costly endeavor. He brought the Parijat, Parijata plant from heaven and implanted it at the place of Satyabhama, one of the principal queens. If therefore anyone desires the Lord to become one's husband, the Lord fulfills such desires in full. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Prabhu. So I'll not go deeper into this one because we spoke about quite a few points already. So one of the points that comes as in the last paragraph is after the killing of Narkasur, okay, Krishna set out to go to heaven. Now the reason for that was two things were happening. So Narkasur had stolen some of the things from Indra, and Aditi Aditi was there were two wives of Kashyap Muni, Aditi and Diti. So the word Daitya has come from the word name Aditi, Diti. So Diti gave birth to demons. Aditi gave birth to demigods, and this was at the time of creation with the help of Lord Brahma. So Kashyap Muni was the husband of both Aditi and Diti. So that way, all these Daityas, demons, are the children of Diti. So Narkasur had stolen away certain things from Lord Indra, and he had also stolen some earrings and something similar of Aditi also. So Krishna collected all of this from Narkasur, and he went to heaven along with Satyabhama and to return all of these things to Indra and Aditi. Now, why he also did that, why he took Satyabhama there? Because in the prior to this one, when Krishna went to what do you say to heaven, prior to this one, Krishna had brought one flower. Okay. So my wife has corrected me. So Narad Muni brought some flowers from one garland from heaven, Swarga, and he gave it to Rukmini. So Satyabhama saw it, and Satyabhama told that, why did he not give it to me? Am I not your favorite? Is Rukmini only your favorite? Why is only Rukmini getting? Why not me? So Krishna said, don't worry, I will give you even better, and not just one flower, I will give you one whole tree. So Krishna took Satyabhama along with himself went to heaven. At that time, he gave all of these things which are stolen by Narkasur, he gave it to Aditi and Indra. And while living, Satyabhama liked this tree called as Parijata tree. And now you will see there are quite a few places Parijat is there. Parijat has a beautiful flowers and which smell very, very beautiful. So Krishna wanted to take that tree, and Indra said, no, this is a heavenly tree, you cannot take it down to earthly planets. So Krishna told, no, I have to take it, Satyabhama wants it. So Indra said, no, you cannot. So Krishna said, do hell with you, I will take it, who can stop me? So Krishna uprooted the tree and he started taking. So Indra told him, you have to fight with me, you cannot take it that way. Now you look at Indra and his level of foolishness. That person, when he was 7 years old and he lifted Govardhan hill, Indra tried to flood Vrindavan, but he could not succeed. After that, Indra realized who Krishna is and he asked for forgiveness from Krishna. That same person, again, he mistakes Krishna as an ordinary person and he says, no, you cannot take it. He did not understand that he is the owner of the spiritual and the material world. Okay, the whole heaven is also owned by Krishna himself, and he is stopping Krishna again from taking that plan. He foolishly fights with Krishna and gets defeated, after which Krishna takes the plant and comes down. That is Indra, meaning meaning so much intoxicated by wealth and power that he forgets time, and again he forgets who Krishna is. So Krishna brings down Parijat and he plants it in the garden in Satyabhama's palace in front of her bedroom window, so that she can see that plant continuously. So this is the story behind the Parijat plant. Okay, I will move on.
One question.
Huh.
And if you see the first paragraph, this last sentence says, by engagement in the service of the Lord, the designative disqualifications are removed, and as pure souls, they become eligible to enter into the kingdom of the Lord.
So
exactly?
designative disqualifications, meaning the qualifications of a body. So why this is mentioned here is these people, Yavanas, Khasa, Pulinda, Pulkasha, and all these are different kinds of tribes. Okay, so there are these people who performed certain activities, and or they did not perform certain activities, because of which they got together as a kind of a tribe. And these tribes were more into bodily activities, more into meat eating or similar activities, because of which they automatically became disqualified to perform certain spiritual activities. So what he is saying is, if they are engaged properly in the devotional service via the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra and similar activities, these designative disqualifications, meaning the body become, by performance of certain activities becomes disqualified to perform certain devotional service activities. These disqualifications can be removed if they are engaged properly in bhakti. That is what it says, and then they become eligible to enter the kingdom of God. Like for example, let's take a small example. It is meaning forbidden for somebody to do deity worship and touch the Lord or enter the Lord's room or touch the things which are related with the Lord. Like for example, if you are using a diya and bati and to light in front of the Lord, okay, these things are basically forbidden to be touched if you have not taken a bath. तो आपने देखा होगा कि सुबह सुबह उठ के we don't come and touch the Lord. We touch the Lord, we open the door of the Lord's room or the altar only after taking a bath. बाथ लेंगे, आचमन करते हैं और उसके बाद हम लोग भगवान को टच करते हैं. जब पेशाब केयर करते हैं ना, 2 नंबर करेंगे अगर समझो, तो उसके बाद भी वी बिकम इम्प्योर. सो उसके बाद भी मतलब बिना नहाए वी शुड नॉट टच द लॉर्ड. सो अगर 2 नंबर पास टूल पास करते हैं, उसके बाद नहाना चाहिए, वापिस आचमन करना चाहिए, एंड देन यू कैन टच द लॉर्ड. सो सर्टन एक्टिविटीज डिस्क्वालिफाई अस फ्रॉम टचिंग द लॉर्ड और परफॉर्मिंग सर्टन एक्टिविटीज. सिमिलरली जब कोई नॉनवेज वगैरह खाते हैं तो उसके बाद मंदिर नहीं जाना चाहिए. बट नाउडेज पीपल डोंट इवन नो दिस, एंड इवन इफ दे नो इट दे डू नॉट इवन बॉदर अबाउट इट. तो नॉनवेज खाने के बाद भी भगवान को टच करेंगे, कुछ भी करते हैं ये लोग, मंदिर में वगैरह जाएंगे, वो गलत है, वो करना नहीं चाहिए. तो व्हाट ही मेंशन्ड हियर इज, आप अगर हरे कृष्ण मंत्र का जाप करते रहोगे तो ऑटोमेटिकली ग्रेजुअली these disqualifications will start getting removed and you will be able to perform better quality devotional service and become eligible to enter the kingdom of God. Okay, Prabhu?
Thank you, Prabhu.
So let's look at verse number 31. एवं विधा गदन्ति नाम सगिरः पुरयोषिताम निरीक्षणेनाभिनंदन सस्मितेन ययौ हरिः. इसको परपोर्ट नहीं है. Who is reading? Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Anybody reading?
Yeah, Prabhuji. So while the ladies of the capital Hastinapura were greeting him and talking in this way, the Lord, smiling, accepted their good greetings, and casting the grace of his glance over them, he departed from the city.
Okay. So this particular stuff, the grace of his glance is also very important. In the 9th chapter, 10th verse, a very important verse, just let's read that. It says, Maya Dhakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. This material nature, which is one of my energies, is producing and is working under my direction, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So the word used here is Maya Dhakshena. What does this mean? Let's break the word. Maya is mine, by me. Adhyakshe. Adhyaksha. Today we know what Adhyaksha means. Adhyaksha means president. Okay. So if you break the word Adhyaksha, it is Adhi plus Aksha. Aksha meaning eyes. Adhi meaning corner. So technically speaking, he is saying by just one glance from the corner of my eyes on the material nature, I produce the complete material world, the moving and non-moving beings in the material world. I are just produced by just my glance from the corner of my eyes. He doesn't even need to look fully. Just from the corner, when he looks, the moving and non-moving of beings in the material world are created. He is saying. So we can understand that his glance, just that from the corner of his eyes, is also so important. So when he casted his glance on those women, it was such a big mercy on all of them. Okay, let's read verse number 32. Ajata shatruh prutanam gopithaya madhudvishah parebhya shankitah snehat prayukta chaturanginim. Rao Prabhu, you want to read?
Hare Krishna. Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji, please.
Okay, Maharaj.
Translation in Vaishnavi Prabhupada. Jai Shri.
Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Maharaj Yudhishthir, although no one's enemy, engaged 4 divisions of defense, horse, elephant, chariot, and army to accompany Lord Krishna, the enemy of the Asuras, demons. The Maharaj did this because of the enemy and also out of affection for the Lord. Purport. Natural defensive measures are horses and elephants combined with chariots and men. Horses and elephants are trained to move to any part of the hills or forests and plains. The charioteers could fight with many horses and elephants by the strength of powerful arrows, even up to the standard of the Brahmastra, similar to modern atomic weapons. Maharaj Yudhishthira knew well that Krishna is everyone's friend and well-wisher, and yet there were asuras who were by nature envious of the Lord. So out of fear of attack from others and out of affection also, he engaged all varieties of defensive forces as bodyguards of Lord Krishna. If required, Lord Krishna himself was sufficient to defend
Himself.
Just a second. Something came. Yeah. If required, Lord Krishna himself was sufficient to defend himself from the attack of others who counted the Lord as their enemy, but still he accepted all the arrangements made by Maharaj Yudhishthir because he could not disobey the king, who was his elder cousin. The Lord plays the part of a subordinate in his transcendental sporting, and thus sometimes he puts himself in the care of Yashoda Mata for his protection in his so-called helplessness of childhood. That is the transcendental Leela or pastime of the Lord. The basic principle of all transcendental exchanges between the Lord and his devotees is exhibited to enjoy a transcendental bliss for which there is no comparison even up to the level of Brahmananda. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
So, in one of the scriptures, it is mentioned that the Lord loves that relationship more, which is coming out of, not just love, but a kind of an authoritative love. Like, many times we see children, they want to become the father of the father. And that's why they say, no, 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 Papa, you are very tired. You have to take a rest. You have to sit there. No, you should not do any work. Yeah. So this love is like, they love the father so much that they are saying that for you, I am going to become your father and stop you from doing something which is not good for you. So that kind of love Krishna likes. That's why he likes to become more and more subordinate to his devotees. So that's why when Yashoda Mata takes a stick in his hand to run after Krishna, wanting to beat him, Krishna acts as if he is so fearful and runs around the courtyard and displays tears in his eyes and rubbing it and the mascara getting spread across the whole area of ears. All this he likes to do that. Why? Because he loves that authoritative love from the devotee. And the devotee also does that because he wants to disregard his supreme position, the Lord's supreme position. He's saying, Yashoda Mata and Nanda Maharaj used to say that You may call him to be the supreme, but he is my son. If he does mistake, I will chastise him. And he likes that. So that authoritative love, when it is displayed, Krishna purposely likes to play a subordinate role. And in this particular occasion, Yudhishthir himself knows that a person who could kill absolutely anybody on the whole world, irrespective of how powerful he is, what arrangement will Yudhishthir make to defend Krishna? That person, because of whom you won the whole war against the Kauravas, you are now saying that I will make arrangements to defend you. It's ironical, isn't it? But Yudhishthir is doing because he is concerned about Krishna. He does not want the Lord to, take up the efforts again to fight for himself. Instead of that, Yudhishthir is saying, I will do it for you. And the Lord accepts it despite he knows his strength, despite he knows the strength of the army deployed by Yudhishthir. He knows that. But still the Lord accepts it because he likes to be bossed by the devotees. And this is the kind of best part of the relationship. Everybody does it for the other person. Whereas, and that is what is bhakti. It is completely selfless, done purely 100% for the other person. There is nothing that we want to derive anything as our own pleasure in bhakti. We do not want to do it for ourselves, we want to do it for the Lord. That is bhakti. And this Yudhishthir was doing it because he knew that after killing so many Kauravas, some of the other person will feel, have some kind of enmity with Yudhishthir, and we may want to attack Lord Krishna also for this one. So in terms of defense, he is doing all this. Hare Krishna. Let's go to verse 33. अथ दुरागतान् शौरिः कौरवान् विरहातुरान् सन्निवर्त्य दृढं स्निग्धान् प्रायात्स्व नगरीं प्रियैः.
One of the profound affection for Lord Krishna, the Pandavas, who were the Kuru dynasty, accompanied him a considerable distance to see him off. They were overwhelmed with the thought of future separation. The Lord, however, persuaded them to return home, and he proceeded towards Dwarka with his dear companions.
Now, this is the time when Krishna, after departing Hastinapur, he never comes back to what do you say? To after going to Dwarka, he never comes back. Sorry, to Hastinapur. So, although they may not know about it, but their love basically brought them to such a considerable distance that basically they did not want Krishna to leave, and so that fear of separation, because of which they came so much outside Hastinapur to accompany the Lord and to see him off. And coincidentally, after this, there are a few more chapters, and then Krishna departs for his Goloka Vrindavan Dham, and he closes the Leela on this earth. And meaning we might think that okay, Mahabharata got over after Kauravas were defeated, and then some few activities here and there by Ashwatthama and all that. But practically, there were quite a few things that happened after this one. Some of these activities are mentioned in 10th canto. A big amount of activities are mentioned in 11th canto also. So what we read in the previous few verses, that each of these 16,108 wives had 10 children, and each of these child had 10 more children. All of these were part of Krishna's family, going into millions. All of these millions, barring just 2 or 3 or 4, were destroyed. Okay, meaning immediately after Krishna left. And basically they had a war among themselves, and they fought and killed each other, and then they went back to Krishna. So this activity happened, which is called as Mausala Lila. You might have heard about it. Then Krishna speaking Uddhav Gita to Uddhav. That's a meaning almost 300, 400 verses, sorry, pages are there in the 11th canto. So there are quite a few critical things that happened after this also, which will come as we move on subsequently, and some of them come in only in 10th and 11th canto. Can I move on? In any question here? Yeah. Okay, fine. Kuru Jangal Panchalan Shurasenan Sayamunan Brahmavartam Kurukshetram Matsyan Sarasvatanath Marudhanva Matikramya Savira Bhirayoh Puran Anartan Bhargavo Pagat Shrantabaho Manadvibhuhu.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Yes, Shri Prabhupada.
O Saunaka, the Lord then proceeded towards
Kuru Jangal.
Kurujangala, Pankala, Surasena, the land and the bank of the river Yamuna, Brahmavarta, Kurukshetra, Masya, Saraswata, the province of the desert, and the land of scanty water. After crossing these provinces, he gradually reached the Sauvira and Habira provinces. Then west of this reached Dwaraka at last. Purport. The provinces passed over by the Lord in those days were differently named, but the direction given is sufficient to indicate that he traveled through Delhi, Punjab, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Saurashtra, and Gujarat, and at last reached his home province at Dwaraka. We do not gain any profit simply by researching the analogous provinces of those days up to now, but it appears that the desert of Rajasthan and the provinces of scanty water like Madhya Pradesh were present even 5,000 years ago. The theory of soil experts that the desert developed in recent years is not supported by the statements of Bhagavatam. We may leave the matter for expert geologists to research because the changing universe has different phases of geological development. We are satisfied that the Lord has now reached his own province, Dwaraka Dama, from the Kuru provinces. Kurukshetra continues to exist since the Vedic age, and it is sheer foolishness when interpreters ignore or deny the existence of Kurukshetra.
And this kind of attitude of ignoring our spiritual scriptures and all that has been displayed in various other areas also. The various architectural knowledge or mathematical knowledge or physics related knowledge is already documented by our great Rishi Munis many thousands of years back. But Indians do not respect their knowledge, and Westerners, even if they go through this knowledge, they will read, understand, and then they will give their own name to this knowledge, and then they will project as if it's a European invention and discovery or American invention and discovery. And that is why the authoritative nature of these scriptures is reducing more and more, not because the subject matter is irrelevant, but the people, their level of knowledge has become so low that they are unable to understand the authority. And because of which anything and everything which is mentioned in the scriptures is now considered as a mythology. So it takes some additional efforts to prove it to them that this is not mythology and it is actually history. And one of the points I liked personally was Prabhupada mentions here that we do not gain any profit by researching these analogous provinces of that days. And if you extend this point, it can be understood from the perspective of we do not get any benefit from performing research on the scriptures also, whether they are authentic or not. Instead, one should just surrender to the scriptures, accept them as it is, and utilize the conclusion that they have given us, which is surrender unto the Lord Krishna, and perform bhakti to him. Because a good amount of time can be spent, or I would say wasted, on doing this research. At the end of it, finally, what you will get is, yes, the scripture is true. And finally, then it is not necessary, even if you realize that the scripture is true, finally, one has to, take the conclusion, understand it, and apply that in our own life, which is what Prabhupada is saying, that you better apply this instruction now itself rather than wasting time on this research. Hare Krishna. I think this is the last verse for the day. Tatra tatra ha tatratyayir hari pratyudya tarhanah sayam bheje disham paschad gavishto gam gatastada.
On his journey through these provinces, he was welcomed, worshipped, and given various presentations. In the evening, in all places, the Lord suspended his journey to perform evening rites. This was regularly observed after sunset. It is said that the Lord observed the religious principles regularly while he was on the journey. There are certain philosophical speculations that even the Lord is under the obligations of duty action. But actually, this is not the case. He does not depend on the action of any good or bad work. Since the Lord is absolute, everything done by him is good for everyone. But when he descends to the earth, he acts for the protection of the devotees and for the annihilation of the impious non devotees. Although he has no obligatory duty, still he does everything so that others may follow. That is the way of factual teaching. One must act properly himself and teach the same to others. Otherwise, no one will accept one's blind teaching. He is himself the awarder of future results. He is self sufficient, and yet he acts according to the rulings of the revealed scriptures in order to teach us the process. If he does not do so, the common man may go wrong, but in the advanced stage, when one can understand the transcendental nature of the Lord, one does not try to imitate him. This is not possible. The Lord in human society doesn't what is the duty of everyone, but sometimes he does something extraordinary and not to be imitated by the living being. His acts of evening prayer, as stated herein, must be followed by the living being, but it is not possible to follow his mountain lifting or dancing with the gopis. One cannot imitate the sun, which can exhaust water even from a filthy place. The most powerful can do something which is all good, but our imitation of such acts will put us into endless difficulty. Therefore, in all actions, the experienced guide, the spiritual master, who is the manifested mercy of the Lord, should always be consulted, and the path of progress will be assured. Hare Krishna.
Jai. So this verse ends the 10th chapter of the first canto. This is the last verse. And two, 3 points we can understand here. So when one understands who Krishna is, only then it is possible to accept his instructions and to view his actions in the right manner. And now, basically, you will appreciate that Bhagavad Gita is supposed to be read and understood prior to going into Bhagavatam. So, what do you say? People generally want to read or understand Bhagavatam, which is not incorrect, but because one may not understand who Krishna is, accepting the instructions of Bhagavatam, or for that matter even Bhagavad Gita, becomes very difficult. So for example, let's say there is a movie that is releasing. So what generally people do, they want to find out who is the actor, who is the actress, who is the villain in that movie, and then they decide to watch the movie. So which means what, the knowledge about the movie is necessary before watching the movie. Only when you understand that yes, this movie has some substance, let me go and watch it, then one goes and watches it. Before reading a book, one tries to understand what is there in the book. So is it worth spending the time of 10, 12, 14 hours on the book and to read it only to realize that it was not worth reading it? So to avoid that, people try to read it. People try to know about the book. So similarly, knowing about Krishna becomes extremely important before applying the instructions given by him or before viewing his actions in the right perspective. So when the Lord performs these activities, like playing with the gopis or lifting the mountain hill or killing so many demons, to think of this as merely meaning mythological, it is a kind of a problem in the intelligence of such people. To consider the Lord as unlimited but to apply a limit on his actions is foolishness. To think of the Lord that yes, you being the supreme Lord, you can do anything, but I cannot believe you that you would have lifted the Govardhan hill. That is foolishness. If the Lord is unlimited, what makes you think that the Lord cannot lift the Govardhan hill? There is no logical answer to it. Either the Lord is not unlimited, or if he is, then he can perform unlimited types of actions also. And to know whether the Lord is limited or not, you have to read Bhagavad Gita. You cannot come to the conclusion that the Lord is not limited without knowing about the Lord. So just like it said, don't judge the book by its cover. Similarly, don't judge the Lord without reading about him. That is Bhagavad Gita book. So when you read Bhagavad Gita, come to know about the Lord, you will be able to accept the activities that he has performed as described in Bhagavatam. Now, there is one verse in 3rd chapter. Anybody remembers, which talks about performing actions to set an example for others? Anybody?
Where Maharaj Dashrath is given as an example, right?
No, that firstly it is not Maharaj Dashrath, which is Maharaj Janak.
Sorry, sir.
And it is not that verse, it is exactly the one after that. So that was verse
There is
number.
this how a Yogya Purush does the work and people follow him. That's the way you need to do the
Yeah,
work.
perfect. So the one that you mentioned about Janak is this one. Kings such as Janak attain perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work. And this verse comes from this as a principle. Verse number 20. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. And this is what we see right today in our on a regular basis also. So people want to follow or imitate superstars and sports stars and movie stars and these kind of people. But the unfortunate part is they do not know whom to follow. So we see nowadays and even previously also, when we were in the school days times, our friends and all used to have Michael Jackson and Madonna and Samantha Fox kind of people, their photos in their bedrooms. Now when you put up the posters of such kind of people, obviously their actions, their thoughts, their words, their behavior, they will play upon the mentality of yourself or the children or those people, and you will start performing, behaving accordingly. Now because they themselves are not on the perfect path, obviously you cannot be expect yourself to be on the perfect path by following them. So that is why Yadyad Acharti Shrestha is important. But to understand who is Shrestha and who is not is even more important. So if you are not misunderstanding who a Shrestha is, and if you have understood the Shrestha person correctly, then following such a person makes sense. But and for that it is very important to know what a person should do for which one should consider him to be Shrestha. And once you understand that person to be Shrestha, then you start following him. And within following also, there is something called as following and imitating. And both are different. So I can follow the instruction given by Krishna. But if I imitate the action performed by Krishna, that will be my foolishness. The Lord can lift Govardhan Hill. If I try to imitate that action of lifting Govardhan Hill, I will be smashed below Govardhan Hill. But if the Lord tells me an instruction that you have to perform your life in so and so many, I will follow that instruction. So following and imitating are different. So when people say that Shankar Mahadev, he smokes weed and chilim and ganja and kind of stuff, तो मैं भी करूंगा. So when you ask such people that Shankar Mahadev ने तो poison भी drink किया था, आप poison क्यों नहीं drink करते? So then they don't want to do that. So that imitation is also selective imitation. What I perceive as something which will give pleasure to me, I will imitate that. What I think it will not give me pleasure or it will be a problem for me, I will not imitate that. So it is again selective imitation. And that is not what is recommended by Shastra. आप करना है तो पूरा करो and follow him properly. So Shankar Mahadev is the excellent or the best devotee of Krishna. People don't want to become that. That time they don't want to imitate him. They only want to imitate in those actions which can give some or the other pleasure to themselves.
So हिंदी में इसको बड़े अच्छे से अनुकरण और अनुसरण.
Perfect. Yeah. So karan karna is not recommended. Yeah, anusaran karna is recommended. Yeah. You're right. Thank you, Prabhu. So that's all about this 10th chapter. We'll meet in the next week. The Lord Krishna entering into Dwarka. So now we are entering stages where now the Lord will, prepare himself to depart from this planet. इसके बाद again Yudhishthir Maharaj, Vidur comes back. Vidur and Dhritarashtra का संवाद होता है. Then Dhritarashtra, Gandhari and Kunti, she leaves. And then Yudhishthir and Narad Muni ka samvad hota hai. Beautiful verses over there. And then the Pandavas also retire. And then Parikshit Maharaj comes into picture. Meaning uske actions start coming into picture. Picture meaning he is already born now, but he grows and then he, he meets Kali, the personality Kali. And वो आगे संवाद चालू होता है. Absolute fantastic hai. Please do not miss. And I again request all of you to encourage your friends also to join this one and let them also take benefit from all these classes. Please forward the WhatsApp group invite to others also and let them also join this. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Any question or we can wrap up? No? Okay, fine. So let's meet next week then. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.